catch that fish yet? Their book.
Oh, yeah, he did.
It's a happy ending.
Not exactly. The old man met his greatest adversary just when he thought that part of his life was over.
Why didn't he just let the fish go?
Old man's got to be the old man, fish has got to be the fish. Got to be who you are in this world, right? No matter what.
Yo, Pops, bet you didn't have to push no dollies at your old job, did you?
Guilty as charged. Can you do a refund for me when you're done?
Open the register up right now. Move. Give me that ring.
No, it was my mother. Please.
It's okay, Jenny.
What's she knowing about?
It is about a guy who's a knight in shining armor, except he lives in a world where knights don't exist anymore.
My ring.
Think you can be anything you want to be. Change your world. I promised I would never go back to being that person. But when somebody does something unspeakable to someone you hardly knew, you do something about it. Because you can. I'm here about a girl. 16 seconds. Seconds.
You didn't take out 5 pimps. You took out the East Coast hub of the Russian mafia.
A man with his skill. I want to know who he really is.
He won't stop until he kills you and anyone you care about.
This goes all the way to the top. Had enough? Because I can keep going. Brick by brick, body by body.
What do you see when you look at me?
What do you see when you look at me?
It's too late to start over. Let's over fear. This is the only thing I know.
I want to thank Toronto for raising me to love movies.
Everyone has a big imagination. All of us do.
This is exciting. My first film to premiere here at the Toronto Film Festival. It's an exciting night. You are the most globally exciting festival in the world.
Hello and welcome to the press conference for the Equalizer. A few points before we begin. This press conference will be streamed live at www.tiff.net, and still photographs will be made available on the TIFF media site. Volunteers with microphones are in the room to assist you with your questions. Please remember to identify yourself and your media outlet. Please note, no photography is permitted during this press conference. Only the pre-approved wire services may take photographs, and we ask that you do so from behind the first row. If you could take a moment to turn your cell phones to silent. Our moderator for today is Elvis Mitchell, and it is now my pleasure to welcome the director and cast from The Equalizer.
Please help me welcome Martin.
Hello.
Chloe. The world's only Oscar-winning Bubba Knight impersonator, Denzel Washington, from the Pips.
Oh.
And the director, Antoine Fuqua. What got you guys back together, Antoine? What?
He called me. Pretty simple. He gave me a call and said, I just read a script. I think it's great. Todd Black and Jason Blumenthal, the producers, developed, and he said, read it, get back to me, let me know. I read it and said, when you want to go? Simple as that.
Well, Denzel, what made you want to do this?
Good script. Todd and Jason developed the material, bought the rights to the material, and took close to a year to develop it, and didn't call me in between, just say, we're working, we'll get it to them when we're ready. I read it, I think it was 4th of July weekend, right? And quick read, called him right away, said, I'm in. No, I called and said, this is Robert McCall. This is Robert McCall calling. So it was a real quick decision.
Because one of the things I thought was really cool about it, and I was talking to Antoine about this, is the last book you're holding is Invisible Man. And you can't watch the movie and not think about that line, what did I do to be so black and blue? I mean, that's a really interesting subtext to give to this. Did you guys work that out, or how did that end up happening?
Richard Wink, the writer.
Here's Richard right here.
Richard.
Say hi, Richard, the writer.
Yeah, Richard's a very smart man, smarter than me. He wrote that. It was always in the script, I believe, from the very beginning, right? Yeah.
But you were saying that when you saw that, you thought the way to sort of give that some subtext of putting that line in was to have Denzel, that last shot, on the beach.
Yeah, I was talking to Richard a lot about that. He gave me a lot of information about his motive for writing it. And it's actually the last day of shooting at the beach, I think it was, right, Todd? And the sun was going down. It was like this blue color. And, you know, on the book, there's the graphic of the man, the invisible man, with his hands behind his back, standing there. And I just saw the sun going down. I asked Denzel, I said, can we go get this? Because the day was almost over. And literally, we ran down the beach, grabbed the cameras, and just stole our shot in like 10 minutes before the sun dropped. And it's the shot that ends the movie just before we go to the diner. And we matched that to the book. The blue sky, the black man, the concept. Just happened at the moment.
Well, Martin, let me ask you, because one of the things I really like about the performance is the way you use your hands. He's always looking at his hands, and I wonder where that came from.
Well, you got something I didn't notice. Well, no, you know, it's good to use every part of your body. So, yeah, it's nice. I mean, extending it out to the ends is always a good thing. And trying and inhabit, yeah, all your faculties. And hands are a good thing.
But it's like a way for him to take up space the way you're using hands. He's basically taking ownership of every room he was in. A lot of that.
Yeah. I came from started from an internal perspective. So, and most of it was based upon Richard Wink's line. Melissa Leo's character says Teddy is a sociopath with a business card. So that was a portal to all kinds of behavior, ways of thinking particularly, and then the articulation of that physically and vocally.
And it's a really interesting physical movie too, because Chloe, the way you are with Denzel versus the way you are with everybody else, I just wonder if you guys had a lot of rehearsal time, the way you worked out, you seem to be more open with him as compared to other people.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we didn't have tons of rehearsal time together. We kind of just, you know, went up on set and did it. And I feel like, you know, I think what was so special about the relationship that we all kind of talked about, I guess, is the fact that Robert is the only guy in her life that doesn't treat her like a piece of meat. You know, he's the only guy that doesn't check her out up and down the minute she walks in a room. He's the only guy that actually asks her how she is, how she's doing, how's her day. You know what I mean? And they have real conversations, even if it's just like, you know, how's your book? And that means more to her than anything. And so I think her demeanor obviously kind of took that on, and the fact that she didn't feel like she had to, you know, put herself on. And every time she opens that diner door, she puts herself on. She pulls her bra up, she pulls her shirt down, you know, she puts on what everyone thinks she is, you know, she fixes her wig.
No, but she also, it's almost like he's the only person she looks in the eye.
Yeah.
She's kind of not looking at anybody else, and 100%. I just wonder where that came from for you. You figured that out, or?
Well, I actually went to this organization that Antoine sent me to called the Children of the Night, and I met a lot of girls who were actually put in this situation and have been taken out of it and are kind of figuring their life out now and getting educated, and a lot of them had this thing where they wouldn't really look you in the eye at all, really, and they would kind of just walk, you know, when they would talk about what happened to them and they would tell you these stories, they would just kind of be real drifty and real shifty. But then when you would kind of connect with them, then they would actually kind of grant you with their look, and it meant so much to see that, and they kind of let you in, and you understand that doesn't happen very much. And we wanted to make that really poignant, and that's when she comes over to his table, and she has a conversation with him, it's a huge moment, because she doesn't do that, and I don't think he does that either. And they both kind of lock eyes on each other, and they barely say any words in that scene, but there's so much context just in the emotions they're sharing through their eyes.
Yeah, of course, over audience questions here. Yeah, yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Bruce Kirkland, Toronto Sun Media. I have a question for Denzel and Antoine, because obviously this is a return to working together. And I'm fascinated by creative teams that produce something. And it's not just based on a friendship, although I gather there is a strong friendship. But what goes beyond the friendship to inspire you, Denzel, to call him on this project? What are you looking for in the dynamic that will create a film that you both can be proud of?
I'm not looking for anything because I know he already has it. So the smartest thing I did was just to call him.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't know. He's an excellent filmmaker. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to put a film together, and he's open to ideas. He's a great collaborator. And he makes my job easier. You know, I don't want to go into a film worrying about if the filmmaker can make the film. You know, I don't have to think about that. You know, once he signed on, I don't have to. You know, and then we collaborate. Obviously, we all work on the material and try to make the best picture we can.
From your point of view?
Yeah, the smartest thing I did was say yes. Yeah, right? It. What he said. That's how we collaborate.
Well, that was informative. Thank you, boys. Yes, next question.
For Antoine and Denzel, the inevitable yet still cool shot of the hero walking away with the detonator and the explosion going off behind him in slow motion. I wonder if either of you remember the first time you ever saw that used, and why it still doesn't seem to get old.
Well, for me, I did it for a lot of reasons. One of it, I love Tony Scott. Like Tony was an inspiration because I came out of commercials and things like that. And I remember Man on Fire, when I saw them do that shot, not that, but that was pretty hot. And it was literally hot for him because I saw his jacket blow, and I was like, I don't know how close he is to that fire.
Too close.
Too close. So it was a little bit of a nod to Tony, you know, personal thing for me, but it also organically part of the story was he timed everything out as a character. We didn't show you where the bomb was when he did it. I just took you right into the scene with it already kind of happening. So it was all about how he timed everything out to be just far enough, you know. And also, you know, it's a cool shot, man. Come on. Think about that for a second. You know, it's a really cool shot, man. You know, so yeah, I don't know when I think the first time I may have seen it was in a Western. It may have been in a Western, you know what I mean? Because back in the day, something like that. But I can't remember any modern movie outside of Tony's film, you know.
Yeah, another question? Yeah, in the back. Oh, hold on a second. We'll get a microphone to you. Hold on.
This is Rui from Portugal. Question for Denzel. I was wondering if a role like this takes something from yourself, if it affects you in some ways, because some people can say it's just an action film, but I was wondering if this character stayed on you in some ways.
You know, I think titles are just, people are just lazy. You know, oh, it's an action film. Oh, it's a thriller. You know, I don't know what that means. You know, Antoine's been talking the last couple of days about shooting the quote-unquote action scenes like drama. You know, and I didn't know that he was thinking that way, but I like that idea. I don't know what an action film is. And I don't even know if I've made one. But what was the question? Do you take some of everything you do home? Unfortunately, my wife has to deal with it. She's like, who's coming in the door today? Oh, it's Malcolm X today. It's the white man's fault today. You know.
Alonzo is
It's training
everybody's fault.
day. It's everybody's fault. Yeah, you know, I don't know what percentage, you know, I don't know what, Martin?
Well, I always think, yeah, it's going to get under your skin. You want to do your best. You know, you're thinking about all these things. It happens relatively quickly. But it's also good to shake it off and, you know, like put it on a coat hanger and throw it in the wardrobe there and leave it alone and rest from it, too. You put in so much work. I always find that if it's encroaching in my personal life that much, it's probably a sign that, you know, A, your loved ones are going to be sick and tired of you, and arguably you're not necessarily doing a great job because you start to lose perspective, and perspective is important. You got to look after yourself, you got to look after the people you're working with.
Chloe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, I mean, I guess, you know, I think it's like when I was like 6 years old and I was having to cry in movies. And when you're 6 years old and you're crying in movies, you're thinking about like your, you know, your pet dying and stuff. And there's a moment where like, you know, you kind of ask your mom and you're like, wait, my pet's okay, right? Like, I'm just making sure, like, we're good here, right? And you know, when you start to kind of believe the kind of emotions you're telling yourself to make you feel a certain way is when you need to kind of step away, I think. And, you know, sometimes it's good for it to kind of affect you personally. Sometimes it's okay to kind of sink it in and understand it and have your own emotions kind of become, you know, entwined with your characters because that's how you really understand it. But, you know, you need to have that time to yourself when you go home and you don't, you know, you aren't Alina, you aren't Terry, you know, it's just a job. You can just have some cereal and watch Real Housewives of Atlanta.
You know,
that sounds pretty good, actually. I like the sound of that.
Nene.
Nene Leaks. That's the one.
You know, as it relates to McCall, we all have a public persona, all of us. But we get to see this guy alone, you know, when it isn't sexy. And I'm sure, not just in this room, but in this room, there were some people a lot stranger than Robert McCall when they're home alone. You know, the way he does things, the way he needs things to be in a certain order, the way he folds his napkin. He's lonely. He's alone. You know, he's and I think it's good, and it's a testament to the writer and the director that we don't know that much about him. You know, we could have had the exposition scene. Oh, you know, it was good.
Was that scene ever in the script?
No. Richard
Okay.
said no.
Okay, because that actually begs a follow-up question for me. I'll start with you, Antoine. Do you ever turn stuff down, this is for all you guys, because you feel like you don't want to take that piece of material on because of what it might do to you?
I made the mistake of turning down 7.
Yeah, I heard that. You told me that, yeah.
I turned down 7, the
Tell 'em-
Brad
tell-
Pitt
tell-
part.
tell 'em
Because I
why.
just thought it was too, I was like, man, this is a man. Then I saw it, I was like, oh, good. I was like, oh. But evidently it wasn't for me. It was for Brad all the time. But it was just too much when I read it, but it was different when I saw it.
Oh, wow. Chloe, is there something like that you turned down or you couldn't do because of what it might do to you?
No, I mean, I've never really, you know, I've never really shied away from a part, and I think that's just because I'm kind of overzealous with booking parts still. I think I still have to fight so hard for parts that, you know, you're kind of hoping you book it when you get that call. So, you know, I don't think I've had, you know, too many chances. I think the parts that I have turned down before, it's just been because they're not enough for me emotionally, because I want to feel a challenge, I guess. I feel like in acting, it's how I find who I am a bit, and I get to soul search a little bit and figure out my emotions that, you know, you're not usually allowed to feel in real life and in everyday life. So, I don't know. I kind of enjoy the challenge.
So you want to be tested, basically, when you get a part.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this part, and I think Antoine specifically kind of pushed me and kind of helped me do things I've never done before on screen.
Martin?
Well, you know, if it's kind of superficial and has no point, then I'd turn it down. But if it's psychologically motivated and has depth and substance, then I'd be happy to go, you know, pretty much anywhere and enjoy it and find unusual, unique ways to do it. But it needs to have a purpose and a reason.
And Antoine, is there something you just couldn't touch that you just walked away from?
Yeah, it's something that I had a tough time doing. I was going to do Prisoners. Yeah, I was originally going to do that film. I prepped it, and I
That's with Hugh Jackman?
yeah, I was going to do it with and I'm the one that actually brought up Jake Gyllenhaal to the guys for the lead though, at that time, because Hugh was doing a play, and his timing was all wrong because he was still doing that play. But I didn't really want to make that film. I was struggling with the movie because I have children. It was the idea of kids being abducted, that concept of that. And I couldn't bring myself to think about making that film for a year of my life and dealing with the idea of a child being abducted and, being a father going through that. I was struggling with that. So, yeah, there are some things that I have a tough time dealing with.
Yeah, another question. Up front here, you yes, ma'am. I guess we'll do everybody in front. Start with you. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Barbara Dudinska, Slovak News Agency. I have a question for Denzel. In today's era of superheroes, it seems to me after watching your movies, your superpower is being really good in eliminating bad guys. So I was wondering, in real life, if you could have a superpower, what it would be. Thank you.
I don't know. It's something positive, I don't know. Something that would help us to get along. Maybe a Jedi mind trick power that I could trick people into actually being nice to each other, and, a humility pill. There you go. He takes a humility pill.
There you go. You've taken one already today. Yes. Next question.
Hello, my name is Swati Sharan.
Where are you? I can't see.
Actually, I'll start.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Hello, my name is Swati Sharan. I'm from Minority Review, and my question is to Denzel. I'm wondering, okay, you've played a character like, you've played Malcolm X, who was a real person, and then you've done fictional characters like the one over here. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, like, what is the difference, in terms of preparing for these types of roles?
With someone like Malcolm X, there's a ton of material. I didn't try to imitate him, but capture the spirit. And the material's available in his albums that he, speeches that he made, and in actual footage. In a film like this, for all of us, we are creating the character. So in some ways, there's more pressure playing a Malcolm X, because everybody, or a lot of people, thought they knew who he was and how he should be presented. So there were 900 opinions of, he would have never done that because I was there that day with him and that didn't happen. So there's a little bit more pressure in that. In a film like this, or with a fictional character, you can do whatever you want to do.
I'm wondering for all you guys, and start with you, Antoine, what was the first day like on the set? What was the first thing you did? Do you remember? On the set for this.
I was in the apartment.
Yeah, folding napkins and
all that stuff,
tea bags and.
The first day for me was a reminder. Does that make sense? Because training day was 12 years ago, which is kind of hard to believe. But it was the first day on the set again with Denzel, and it was like just a reminder of, like, obviously how great an actor he was. Not that I didn't know it, but it's when I get to sit and watch Denzel up close that way, it's just powerful for me, and it just gets me excited. And he wasn't doing, he was just folding napkins and doing what he was doing. And there was times where my producers would be like, "Are you going to cut?" Because we would just let it go, and I was just watching him for a while. So for me, it was just like, it's an interesting thing of like that rhythm again. It's like musicians who's starting to play again, and you're starting to hear that same rhythm again. And I just started to hear that rhythm again, and that was it.
I need a humility pill.
I'm out. I'm sorry.
You're out.
I can't help
you used all yours up?
Yeah, I'm done.
I took all mine.
You took all yours. Yeah. That's a good way in. I always like, if it's possible, making a film the first day to just do some walking, some filmmakers, and maybe sometimes you feel like, oh, let's just jump right into something. If it's right, you know, then it might be a scene where the character should be unsure, let's say. So that might be a good thing to shoot the first day, because you're not sure. But I like walking camera way back up the block somewhere, and because you're figuring it out. You don't come in, you don't know. You know, a jazz musician doesn't know. He knows his solo, but you haven't even, for an actor, nobody else has played any music yet on the first day. You know what I mean? It's you. What is the rhythm? You're just finding a rhythm. I mean, I've never done a film where the first take or two, I'm not nervous.
No kidding.
Yeah, because you're not sure. You know. I know there's more film in the camera or more data in the camera. So as I've gotten more experience, I know. So and Antoine knows. Let it take the time. Let it breathe. Let it keep running. You know, producers are thinking money. They're like, hey, you know, but.
Although on that one, they were sitting there too, letting it roll, by the way.
Yeah, because you got to work it out. You don't know.
Chloe, what was your first day like on the set? Do you remember?
We shot it kind of chronologically inside the diner, I think, pretty much, and it was great. I mean, it was, you know, like they said, you don't really know your character, and I think Alina was someone that, I think it helped for me at least, because Alina, I don't think she really knew who she was on that first day in the diner. She's really lost. She's the most kind of drugged up she's ever been. She's real out of it, and it really worked for me. I think that day is the day I ate a whole pie and a half. After every take, I think we finished a whole pie with whipped cream and buckets of coffee.
Of pie, not the whole pie.
No. By the end of the day, I had eaten so many slices. It was about a pie and like a quarter.
Yeah, she was eating a lot.
Yeah. So it was a great first day.
Martin?
We jumped into, myself and Haley Bennett jumped into that strangulation scene. So there was no there was no walking down. That would have been nice to walk.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, man.
You killed someone on your first day.
That's right. But it was a beautiful, I mean, all death aside, it was a beautiful day. Because the way in which it was directed and embraced by Antoine. We hadn't done any rehearsal. We talked about it a lot. We'd done things, but then you're in the room, you're in the apartment, and it's a fairly grisly scene. And there was the production designer and the scene decorator, set decorator, had fortuitously put something of a Fabergé egg on the mantelpiece, and we were just kind of, you know, improvising this and that. And then I opened up this egg, and it was a musical egg, and you wound it up, and it played this beautiful, naive melody, a kind of lullaby, and it was so indicative of everything that scene was about. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's not. We just kept thinking in my head, and I said, Antoine, what do you think of this? And we played the scene with it, and he said, man, that's a great idea. I love it. And it was so much a metaphor about trying to, the character that I was playing, trying to get inside the innocence of of Mandy, of this girl. And it was very gentle, and it was somehow perverse. And the fact that it was a Russian egg was perfect. And I knew we were going to have a good time, and I was in great hands because Antoine just embraced it, and imbued both Mandy and myself with a great sense of satisfaction and an ability to maintain your own self and bring what you need to give hopefully a very good performance. So that was a good day. Yeah.
I work with a lot of directors, and Antoine. You remind me when you say that, because I'm even going back to training day, we're real fragile day one. And you can really, a director can really crush an actor in the first day. They will remain nameless.
No, we got a few minutes, go ahead.
But I remember working with a director who was like, no, that's not right. I said, wait a minute, you're right, I don't know, but let me, you're giving me notes, it's 9:30, you know, on day one, and it affected the whole film. I remember we were doing training day, and we were in the diner, and I was improvising, and Ethan said something. I said, "My nigga," and Antoine said, "Do you know what you just said?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You like it?" He said, "I love it, man. Put that." So to hear you say him saying he loved it, that's, you know, we're fragile day one, especially. You don't know. I don't care who you are. For someone to chop your knees day one, you know, so he embraces us and supports us. And
yeah, I love it. That day we shot.
So that director, you know who you are. You see this interview, don't do it.
Yeah, somebody just walked out the room, so it must have been him. Yes, sir, question right here. Yeah.
I remember that day, yeah. We shot the first take, actually, with no dialogue. I had him just run the whole scene, just body language.
Oh, okay.
On that day, because it was such a physical day. And that's where that came up. He went up to the thing and started messing with that thing, and I was like, that was interesting. And it was it's an interesting thing to do sometimes. We did it a couple times. We would run it with no dialogue, the whole entire scene. And me and Richard Wink used to talk about that a lot. That's where that came from. And we would run the whole scene with no dialogue and see what would happen just physically. And it kind of came out of also just watching him doing it with no dialogue. It was like, wow, things just start to happen with your body, with how
And
the
you
instrument.
printed those?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you use some of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and some of his too, that when he went over to the ag and all that stuff. Some of that turned out to be like amazing, just right away. And then we did the dialogue after.
That's interesting.
Question, I'm from Mario from Mexico City, Televisa Radio. What do you prefer most to reveal your character, the action sequence or the dialogue sequence or a mix of it? Because there are actors like Harrison Ford that say, I love action to show my character, the inside of my character. And the quick question also is about Taxi Driver. Do you remember a little bit about the relationship between mentor and this girl that she's very strong?
You mean between De Niro and the
Exactly, Travis and Jodie Foster character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, and Jodie. Yeah. Oh, what am I thinking of? I'm thinking of Cape Fear.
It's a different
Yeah.
relationship.
It was thumb in the mouth. That was,
Very different. Yeah.
Boy, I was like, man, that's real. That's when I turned. I was like, oh, wow, Bobby.
Yeah, I think you weren't supposed to like her. It was okay to turn there. You were all right.
No, I didn't turn that. But I don't try to reveal my character. I don't know. I'm just playing a part. I don't know. I'm not trying to show you anything. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do. I can't say in this. I don't know how to reveal my character. I don't know what that means. So I don't look at it like drama scene, action scene. You know, it's a character. He's doing what he needs to do. He goes to this office. They've abused this girl. He brings, not Slavy. He brings the money to say, hey, I'll pay for this girl. He didn't come in there to do an action scene, to show you anything. He came to, if they had taken the money, then he'd have gone home. He'd have went and got the girl and got her help and gone home. So I'm not walking in saying, hey, this is a fight scene. Because I was there for, it was a peace scene. It was a making a deal scene. It was about trying to make a deal. I'll give you the money. They didn't listen. Yes? What about it?
Are you trying to compare?
I never thought about Taxi Driver at all. No, I didn't. No, that's a different movie. Great movie, but I didn't think about it. No.
Hello, I'm Linda Carter with G98.7. I have a couple of questions to ask you. No, not too many. Unfortunately, no, I haven't seen the film yet, but it definitely sounds like it's a heavy, strong film, which I know that you're very, very well known for. Do you ever have any thoughts or any feelings to do something maybe lighter, like a children's, like children's or comedy? I know that you have children also. I know you do.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe I should ask it a little bit more. Any like animated charactures or anything?
Nobody's called me.
Oh. Oh, okay, we'll work on that.
Yeah,
And
question.
also, do you find it easier to work with a director who has also come from being in front of the camera too?
I don't know if I have. Spike?
Yeah.
No, that's never come into my mind. I never asked the director if he did you do any acting?
No.
Not me. All right.
Have you worked with a director that's acted?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Philip Seymour Hoffman, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
And my experience was in a play, and it was and I'm sure I know not all of them.
Oh, he directed you in a play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was good. He understood what it is to be an actor, and guided us through the whole process, and very tenderly, and pushed some people very hard. Me, he didn't. He left me alone. And in fact, I went up to him and said, "Are you happy with what's going on here?" And he goes, "Absolutely." And that was that. And then, and we kept going. But I know that's not the same for. I know that's not the same for every actor who directs. But that person is particularly unique. So.
I directed 2 films, and I don't know anything about directing, but I know something about acting. When Todd and I worked together on both, but especially on Antoine Fisher, he's like, "Denzel, even in the audition, but you got to keep moving," because I was in there for an hour or so with each actor, because as we all know, what it is to be like on the other side of that table, and somebody says, "Oh, you're fine," you know, and I'm sensitive to that. And each actor needs something different. We did a scene with Derek Luke and Viola Davis, and Derek had already figured out what he wanted to do, and he wanted to be real emotional and cry, and I could tell he figured that out. So he went right at it without reason. And I looked and I said, "Okay, let me let him wear himself out a little bit." So we did. "Oh, it was great. Let's do another one." "That was good. Very good. Let's do another one." And then I said, "Okay, Derek, everything you feel is justified, but you're sitting in front of your mother. Don't let her see you sweat. Sit on all those emotions. All of that is honest. But finally, your mother, who never talked to you a day in her life, didn't raise you, who gave you up, now you're sitting across from her, and you don't let her win." Viola Davis came in ready, so focused. I went up to her, it's like, "Let's do another one." You know, there was not, you didn't need to, she was there, and not, a director, a good director knows that anyway, but coming from acting, you could see, hey, Martin is focused. You know, you probably don't have to tell Martin a lot. Martin is focused, not to say you want. Absolutely. No, but Martin is focused, so if I were directing, I would know, you know. And I ask, and I'm sure Martin would ask, you know, how do you feel? You good? You know, that's where trusting the director, being there with someone you really trust, because we're giving him you know, we're bearing our soul. And if he's okay, I'm like, all right, then I'm good. Let's move on.
We'll get a question from the back. We haven't had any yet. Yeah, yes, sir.
Kerry
Where are
Roberts.
you? I can't see.
Oh, right over here. Okay. Kerry Roberts from The Next Take on Super Channel. My question's for Denzel. When we watch the character of McCall in a situation, we see him assess the situation, assess the threat, see what weapons are available. There's a stillness to him. Can you maybe talk about some of the things that you work with, let's say a fight or a stunt performer, and how you sort of molded that character and the way he reacts?
You know, a lot of it is what Antoine did, because the camera a lot of times becomes my point of view. He dropped in real close on the eyes, but then he's shooting that and shooting those things. You're not necessarily seeing me look at all of those things. You're seeing the camera is looking at all those things. You know, he didn't shoot a lot of my eyes moving around. It was really the start of it, and then he would cut to point of view. What was the question again?
Performer or somebody who had a martial arts background.
Yeah. Our you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Well, Keith Salmon, one of our stunt guys, is a Navy SEAL, and then his partner, Lynn is a martial artist. He was an MMA fighter as well. They worked with Denzel every day. For months. And Denzel, for 6 months or something, for a while. But he boxes also, been boxing for 20 years. So we combined all that knowledge into those fight sequences. And they trained and worked on it. They would videotape it and then show me stuff. And we had a particular concept we wanted to create, so, yeah.
To Antoine's credit, when I saw the film, it was the movie I thought I was making, then it was the movie I saw. There was a lot more up on screen than what I thought I did.
Yeah.
You know, because of what he was also doing with the camera. It was a much bigger film than I thought it was.
What did you guys think when you saw the film?
Well, I only filmed my stuff in the diner, so I didn't see anything else filmed. So when I saw it, it was like, honestly, it was, you know, I hadn't seen anything, so it was like watching the movie for the very first time in the sense that I didn't really know what would happen besides what I read in the script. And it was amazing. I loved it. I was really invested. So I guess it's a great movie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was elevated. There's only so much you can. There's so many people working on a film, and they have so much talent and skill, and you know, it's not my job to. I mean, you're a part of it, of course, but you're a part of a certain something, and it's to be able to go outside and wander around and have a look at everything that's going on all the time. Well, I wouldn't be doing my job properly. So, but in this case, the elevation of the experience was, yeah, it was greater than the sum of its parts while we were doing it. That's for sure.
Another question. I can't see if anybody's got their arms out that they're so dark in the back. Because what I was wondering too, for you, Antoine, the movie's now in Boston. It takes place in Boston. The old show's New York. It's about how in the 80s New York was the scariest place in the universe. And this is a Boston. You were talking about why Boston worked for you.
Well, it was written that way as well. They developed it for Boston. When I got the script, it was always Boston, right, Richard? Yeah. And when I spoke with Todd and Jason about it, they said, I think one of you guys said, it doesn't have to be Boston, but that's where it's at right now, so let's talk about other places maybe. There was a conversation possibly. And then we talked about it together, and it's just like, Boston's great. It was like blue-collar town. A guy could disappear there. It was like a great city to film in. We wanted also a location where McCall lived. It was a mixed bag of races. It wasn't just one thing. And Boston just made sense. We went there and scouted the place, and I personally fell in love with the place. So as a character, it makes sense. New York just felt like it would be too big of a character itself. Sure. Boston felt like it was enough of a character that has secrets, like McCall. You know, Boston's got secrets. It's got Harvard, then it's got the harbor, which brings everything, right? So, and while we were filming, everything was happening in Boston, unfortunately, the bombing, Whitey Bulger story, the court was happening. Every time we drive to the set, there was cameras everywhere. So it was one of these places where you go from like Harvard and great restaurants and great food, and then Whitey Bulger stories right there. And then, you know, there's Russians, not all bad, of course, but there's a lot of other people there at the restaurants and the cafes that are Russians and big Latino market people, community. And so I found it to be a diverse town, but very blue collar first. It was a working man's town. Like, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so right away I connected to that blue collar feeling. And McCall was that. It sort of fit McCall. You know, the guy walking up the street with his lunch, little lunch bag and jacket, and rides the bus and blends into the world, and no one would even think about it.
And I'll start with you, Martin. Did the city shooting there, having Boston as rather a locale or in your head, did they help you with the character at all, given that you were an outsider coming in?
Honestly, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, not with this character. I think he could have been anywhere. It was irrelevant. Although there is one scene, it's the first scene that we shot together, when Teddy comes to McCall's apartment, and he speaks in a Boston accent as opposed to a continental Russian accent. And so, but if we were in Paris, then he probably would have been speaking French. You know, so it wasn't important to Teddy as such.
Chloe, did the location or the setting make much difference for you at all? Or did it help with the character?
I think honestly it was more like the weather. I think it was hot. It was hot and humid, and it kind of gave you that feeling, when you're outside. And I was wearing those outfits and those heels and those those wigs. It gave me that kind of, it does something to you when you're in that humidity. It does something to you. So I think the atmosphere we were in was kind of perfect for it. Yeah.
30-something years ago, my wife was doing a show in Boston that she actually did here too, called the All Night Strut.
Oh.
Yeah. Shameless plug coming. She's actually singing here next Sunday at Friday. I keep saying Sunday, Friday.
Thank you for
at
that.
the Trinity something Church of the Holy Trinity. She's doing a one-woman show, but so go get tickets. But Boston, the reason I brought that up was a shameless plug, but the other reason I brought it up was the last real fight I had was in Boston. She was doing the show, and I came up to visit her, and security tried to suggest that I was a pimp, and she was a prostitute, and I couldn't stay in the room. So I knew they were joking, so I hung up. And security came to the door, and it was on.
I said Denzel been boxing for 2 years.
No, I wasn't boxing then, but I didn't know how to fight, but I knew how to win.
I know he did.
Yeah, I knew how to win. It's a difference.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I hear.
Yeah, it's a difference. But that was the taste. And walking to her show one night, being called a nigger. Hey, nigger. Hey, boy. I was like, damn. That was the taste I had in my mouth about Boston.
It was like that for a long time there, too.
Is it still?
I'm not going to say.
But I did drive around Boston, and I drove in the Southie area, and then you cross right over into the black area. And I'm going, oh, now I see, because all the poor folks are right next to each other, and that's always the case, Yeah, the first time I got called a nigga, I said, I was in Florida, and we were on a balcony. I was about 9, and these kids walked by on the beach, and I went in the house. I went in the hotel room, and I said to my mother, why are they saying that? She said, oh, that's just somebody that's worrying about you taking their place. So she put it in those terms. And I didn't quite know what she was talking about, but that was good enough for me. She said, no, that's just somebody that's worried about you taking their place. So it's like crabs at the bottom of the barrel. And South and Southwest Boston, they were all right there. And they're at the bottom. So, well, we're better than you, Sure. Yeah, so I came there with those kind of memories, but all of that was actually a shameless plug.
Well, shameless plugs and tips for the Boston Tourist Board aside, I guess we're out of time. Let's thank the people from the Equalizer.
All right.